Clearly, I did not put my phone on D&D. Thought I did. Everybody that comes in, everybody that joins me. This is Lanisha Lamb, author, writing mentor, and the founder of the Pretty Geeky Kids Club, which is an education website with a holistic approach to fundamental learning, and we provide solutions that yield results. As you all know, every Thursday I'm here, same time, same place, 8 o'clock, to talk to you guys about some of the things that we face as parents and pretty much how to better prepare our children to be successful in and out of the classroom, and obviously how we can support them as the parent. So just like last week, I am waiting for them to come in. Mr. Dana Harris is in. So as you guys come in and start viewing the video, please don't forget, whenever you come in the house, you have to speak, you have to say hello. So don't forget to speak. If you find something of value as you're watching the video, don't forget to share. Everybody, please don't forget to share. Tonight, we're talking about mastering the fundamentals, and we have Brother Dana Harris on with us, and in just a minute we're going to have him to start introducing himself and let you guys know just how awesome he is and why he is on the other side of the camera with me. But we're going to give you guys just a few seconds to join us and come on in. Hey Angela, hey everybody else that's coming, I see you guys coming in. Thank you guys so much. This is part 2 of having a man alongside me this week, so we got to show up for the black men in our community. So y'all come on in now. All right, Dana. So
what's up? What's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Let me scoop my chair over because I look crooked on the camera. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's spring break, so I'm loving that.
Oh, you already out on spring break?
Yes, today was the last day, and I'm ready to enjoy my break.
I know that's right. You got some people saying hello. You got Fernandez Willis saying, what's up, little bro? And we got Kelly. Hey, Kelly. She said, hey, Dana, as well.
What's going on, everybody? I appreciate you all for tuning in. I see some fellow Broncos.
Yes, yes.
Saints friends in there.
Deep in Bronco country now. So now, you know, guys, I really like to be punctual and start on time. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. Dana, just give us a little bit about yourself. Include for us your bio, where you are now. Exactly, Kelly, attitude check. Where you are now, and tell us a little bit about your experience as a black teacher in the classroom.
Well, where do I start? I think I'll start at Fayetteville State. So I went to Fayetteville State University. Had no idea what I wanted to major in, but in high school, I knew math was my favorite subject. And I realized in 10th grade geometry that I was pretty gifted in math. Well, first semester, I was taking pre-calculus with, he was Mr. Gillespie, but he's now Dr. Gillespie. And I got an A in every class I took my freshman year. But in pre-calculus, I got a C.
Okay.
And I was stunned. So I was so mad that it just sparked something in me, because I'm like, how do I get a C in my favorite subject? Mm-hmm. So I kind of did some soul searching, and I think I was so mad that when I took Cal 1 the next semester, the first test, I got a 100 on it. And nice. So my instructor, Mr. Bobby Hostler at the time, he says, Mr. Harris, I need you to stay after class. So in my mind, I'm thinking, he thinks I cheated. So when I stay after class, he says, I have somebody that wants to meet you. So he took me upstairs to meet Dr. Kenneth Jones, who was at the time the department chair of math and computer science. And Dr. Jones pretty much set me down and was like, hey, we want you to be a math major. So I always tell people I was conned into being a math major. So that was the beginning of my journey. Fast forward, I graduated from Fayetteville State, and I started working a job as a credit counselor right before I graduated. And I graduated in December, so I started that job probably in November. And I was working that job for a few months, but I wasn't getting any fulfillment from it. I didn't like the hours. I was working from like 12 to 9. And I don't even remember. Somebody suggested that I apply for this part-time teaching job there in Fayetteville at Terry Sanford High School. So I got the job, started it, and I liked it. The unfortunate part about it was I started out teaching honors geometry to freshmen, and I couldn't stand geometry in college. So it went well. I left teaching for a semester, or I taught that semester, and then about midway through the semester, I picked up another part-time teaching job. So I was working at Terry Sanford as well as E. Smith High School, pretty much the two schools on both sides of Fayetteville State University. And after that semester, I liked it, but I wasn't feeling it because I didn't have a full-time position for me coming up. So I actually went back and worked at Fayetteville State in the admissions office as an assistant director of admissions for a year.
Still there?
Model was fantastic. Fortunate, I actually at the time was able to help recruit the largest freshman class they had ever had at the time. Did that job for a year, and then my oldest son was born, and that job required me to be on the road a lot. So I left that job to pretty much spend more time with my son, and I went back to the classroom, and I've been teaching ever since.
Okay.
So that's my story. And in regards to being a black male in the classroom, my first day teaching was interesting. A kid bumped into me, called me a few select words. And at the time, I was 23, so I wasn't as mild-mannered as I am today. So I kind of had to realize, hold on, this could be a big problem or it could be a minor problem. But I kind of said a few things to him. I showed my badge like I was the police or something. And I was like, hey, I'm a teacher. I'm not a student. And I never had any other problems from him. But I think I've been able to make an impact because a lot of young males, particularly minority males, they're not used to seeing our kind in the classroom, but more importantly, seeing a black male as a math teacher goes a very long way. So that has helped me out tremendously.
Good. Okay, cool. So now that was your first experience going into the classroom. Little boy done pushed you. You had to, assert your authority. Now what's your experience now whenever you get your new students coming in at the beginning of the year? What's the experience now?
It is wonderful. The first day, the students kind of look at me twice because usually the first day I wear a shirt and tie, and they're looking like, uh-oh, we don't know what to expect. So I get a lot of respect. I'm able to fortunately build relationships with a lot of kids that other teachers have a hard time building relationships with. I don't know if there's a magnet on my forehead or something, but every school I go to, they just want to give me the worst kids. And I used to complain about it, but now I take it as a privilege. I take it as a blessing in disguise because, at the end of the day, you never know what impact you can make in some child's life. And so I've had, over the years, many kids come back and they apologize for acting a fool or, they're thankful. They support what I'm doing now and a lot of other things. So I'm able to really, really build relationships more than anything. I think I do more motivational speaking probably than math teaching. I tell people that all the time.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I think that's a perfect segue into what it is that you do, because I did tag the Young Gurus page on this video, but I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to talk about that because math is something that parents struggle with when working with their kids, especially with all these new strategies that we have now. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about Young Gurus and how it started. I know you guys have been around a long time, so kind of talk about your organization.
Well, Young Gurus Math Tutoring it's now an online math tutoring business. And it started years ago, early in my teaching career. I needed some extra money, so I started teaching kids or tutoring kids on the side. And over the years, I just was persistent with it, tutoring kids in person. And at one point, I had a friend who was in Raleigh. At the time, I was still in Fayetteville. And their child needed help. He was really, really struggling. And so I had put this sticker, this like whiteboard sticker on my wall just to teach my son math, because that's kind of attached to my story of how I got good at math as a young age. And so one day I was like, you know what? If your child needs help, check it out. We're going to get on Skype and I'm just going to turn my computer towards this board and I'm going to write on the board what the child needs to see and we're going to go from there. So that was my first experience with online tutoring. A few years after that, around 2015, 2016, I was doing some research online and I came across a lady named Joanne Kaminsky. And Joanne Kaminsky actually is a online tutor business coach. And I started following her and I invested in herself. By this time, I had gotten a lot more mature as a man. My life was a lot more settled. And so I just really started pursuing this dream of tutoring people. And I realized that if I tutor online, number one, I could tutor more people. Mm-hmm. Number two, I could expand my classroom pretty much. And then I didn't have to worry about travel time. So at the time when I was tutoring in person, I could maybe tutor 2 kids per day before I had to go home and handle business as a father and things like that. But the online thing came when I started realizing that it could expand me. And I realized just that there's a need out there. There's people all around the world that struggle with mathematics and need help with mathematics. And so that's how the online tutoring business started. I invested in some coaching and things like that. And just I keep pushing every day. The other part of it is a few years ago, I tried an experiment with YouTube. And so I was kind of expanding in the classroom and wanting to do more facilitating. I realized that when you facilitate in the classroom, it does a world of a difference because you can answer more questions and things like that. So I just recorded a YouTube video on my board. By this time, I moved up to a new board. I have a much better board now. And I showed it to my students, and they were seniors at the time, and they loved it. So I had this one kid, I'll never forget him, Joshua Byes from Hope County High School. Joshua, he was like, "Hey, Mr. Harris, man, do you have an Instagram page? You should make more videos. That was cool. We could do it on our own, blah, blah, blah." And they were one-to-one with Chromebooks at the time. And so since then, I've just been pushing the YouTube channel because I realized that there is a group of people that may not be able to afford paying me to tutor their child one-on-one, but I believe that they still deserve the opportunity to get math help. And what I realize is that my personality and the relationships that I've built, my little 13 years of experience teaching, it adds up. And I had to really realize the value that I actually can bring to the classroom. So I just decided to run with it. And now it's just something that I'm passionate about. And I'm always in the lab, as I like to say.
I love it. I love it. So now you're talking about tutoring. You're talking about the need for it. Obviously, you're right. There's a lot of parents who cannot afford to get that one-on-one tutoring. So you've opened yourself up to doing all these videos. Somebody commented earlier, Leslie. She said she loves your videos. I do too. I love watching
so much.
Videos. So thank you for that. Now, one thing that I want to figure out, I want to pick your brain about is why do you think, and I think you and I discussed it just a smidget on Instagram the other day, but why do you think we're having such an issue with math?
Give me just a second. Let me put this charger in because it came out. And that's a wonderful, wonderful question, which I think really, there's several parts to it, but I'll try to be brief. Okay. So I think the main thing with that is that from my experience, many teachers, math is their weakest subject. Hold on one second. I'm having some technical difficulties with my tripod.
No problem. While he's getting set up, for those of you who are just coming in, we are talking with Mr. Dana Harris, who is the owner and operator of Young Gurus Math Tutoring, and we are talking about mastering the fundamentals tonight. He's just going to share a little bit about his story and how we can help our children become stronger in mathematics. And right now he is preparing to answer the question of why is it that we have such a difficult time with math? Because too often I hear parents, reading is definitely one of the ones that they complain about too. But you know, a lot of parents are talking about math, especially with these new strategies. So we are waiting now for Mr. Dana to fill us in on why is it that we're having such an issue with mathematics.
So I think number one, and this is just, as I like to say, the gospel of Dana Harris, I think that many elementary school teachers, math is their weakest content area. And so when you're an elementary school teacher, you can kind of mask that by, you know, doubling down on the reading or doubling down on the science and the other areas and just cover the math topics and still get by. You know, they like to put a lot of Band-Aids on things because they have a limited understanding of mathematics. So they tell kids things like, if they see 5 minus 8, they tell kids things like, no, you can't do that. when in actuality it is that they can do it. It's just that they haven't been introduced to negative numbers. And even when you talk about subtraction, they say, well, if the number on the bottom is larger than the number on the top, you have to borrow. Well, if you borrow something from me, I want you to give it back. And if you think about the algorithm part of that mathematics, you never give that digit back. So you're regrouping. So a lot of the language is one of the problems. A lot of the limited knowledge of elementary teachers with mathematics is another problem. And then, by the way, a few years ago, we threw in this big old elephant in the room, Common Core. So a lot of teachers went from bad to worse. So I think that's the main issue that causes kids to struggle with mathematics.
Okay. So now, you know, with elementary school teachers, for those of you who are, I'm pretty sure everybody knows, but generally speaking, elementary school teachers are teaching everything, which is why he's saying it's easy for them to kind of mask it and double down on other subjects. So as a parent of somebody who has a child in elementary school, what are some things that we can do to support our child as they're going through?
Number one, be careful of the messages that you give your child. One of the things that I always get is when I meet people and they say, hey, what do you do? And I say, I'm an educator. Oh, what do you teach? Math. And I would say probably about 85% of the time, there's some negative message. I hate math, or I was terrible at math, and those type of things. And I've seen a lot of parents when in my clientele, you know, they come to me and when they're giving me the story, they pretty much have this attitude as, I've had it up to here. I've tried. I try to show them how we learned it, and they say, my teacher said that's not how you do it. And so for the parents, be mindful not to feed that negative attitude towards mathematics. Also, use the internet. This technology that these kids love, use it. I think back even back in the day, you know, we used to have to play games with math, you know, practicing your addition facts, your subtraction facts, your times tables and things like that. And so utilize those things. There's several free apps and several free websites that kids can go just practice. And so I encourage parents, help your kids to master the basics. In college, one of the things that I learned is that the most difficult forms of mathematics all go back to some of the basic mathematical principles, or mathematical properties. The identity property, things such as any number times 1 is equal to that number. Any number plus 0 is equal to that number. The commutative property, which basically states that the order in which you add two numbers doesn't matter. You'll still get the same answer. So 2 plus 5 is 7. 5 plus 2 is 7. That same property applies to multiplication. So be more encouraging. And like I say, most importantly, use the internet, use the technology, because there are tons of free resources out there that you can use to help your child.
Okay, so I'm going to do you one better. So let's say my child has the access to the iPad and the computer, right? Or the smartphone. We'll say the smartphone. And they're up there, but I don't know how to help them. So now if they're on a problem and they get stuck, so where should I refer them to? Is there any type of app that you like to refer people to that can kind of help that child on their own, and isn't so much relied on maybe the support of the parent? For somebody who is, you know, not strong in math, has really that negative thought process as it relates to math, they're like, I don't want to deal with that. Are there any apps that you would refer a child to specifically so that they can kind of teach themselves?
None in particular. When I come across them, I'll try them out. But one of the things that I do is YouTube, and that's one of the reasons that I started my YouTube channel, because I feel like if you people, unfortunately, we go based upon the looks of a gift. You can put a gift in this pretty beautiful box with wrapping paper, and you put a nice beautiful bow on top of it, and guess what? They'll think they'll have the greatest gift in the world, and they can open up that big box and it's just a little small itty bitty toy, but the appearance was everything. And so I say that because when you look at YouTube videos, I've done research. there are a ton of YouTube videos that have some boring person talking to them in monotone. And unfortunately, you have so many math teachers that we love the math, but we end up getting in front of people teaching them, and we forget that the kids are even there. We assume that they know that. But the answer to the question is an example, Mashup Math.
Okay.
Mashup Math is a guy, he has a YouTube channel, and his videos are awesome. Many people use Khan Academy videos, but me personally, that's one of those monotone people. And I've gotten that from students. So I used it at times, but students felt like, nah, that's not my cup of tea. The other thing is you can simply search for free apps. And like, for example, if your child is having a hard time studying multiplication, you can simply search for free multiplication apps. I know one of the apps that I used to use was Math Ninja. There's also a lot of kids, they love a website called Cool Math Games. They love this website because it helps them practice the math, but it's in game form. Most of the time when things are gamified, kids engage. And we have to be careful that we're not using the internet as a crutch. So there's not any particular ones that I always recommend, but those are just some of the few. Math is Fun is another one. So those are a few of them, but you want to use something that, first of all, models how to solve the math. Okay. That's the important thing. Many teachers and in the classroom, they don't model the mathematics. And so when you model the mathematics first, now the kids see how they should pretty much solve a problem.
Okay. Now, I got to reintroduce you again because we got some more people coming in. Eric, your LB says, what's up? Some other people say,
what's going on, brother?
But it's moved up. So we all say hello. For those of you who are coming in late, obviously most of you guys know who Dana is, but I want to make sure that I emphasize this point that you made in the beginning. When you started school at Fayetteville State, you made A's in all of your subjects except for that pre-calculus class. It was pre-calculus, right?
Pre-calculus.
And that was the motivational piece. That was the inspiration for him to say, I really need to buckle down and get this thing. And then you ended up turning it all the way around and making 100 on your exam, and then them approaching you about majoring in math. And I think that's really important, that we cannot get discouraged whenever things don't go our way that first time around. We have to use maybe that setback as a come up for something greater. And we see where he is now with Young Guru's Math Tutoring, he's helping these children understand. And that's one of the main reasons why I named tonight's segment Master the Fundamentals, because it's really important that we understand the basics. Because like he said, all of that high-tech math, all that he said before is based off of the basics. So as long as you understand the fundamentals, if you have a very good understanding of the basics, then that should carry you a really, really long way. If you are having issues at home, if you're not a parent who is strong in math, then YouTube is your friend. There's no particular app, but Google is also your friend. If you want to search for apps, you can use a search engine to look up free apps for multiplication, division, or whatever concept that you happen to be working on. So get everybody up to speed. We're all on the same page now. Now I want us to talk about some of the things that you feel are essential to a child's success. And this could be overall, it could be specific to math. I'll give you the floor to answer it how you want.
Well, first, I want to step back real quick when you mentioned that basics thing. Okay. I tell my students all the time, I've forgotten more mathematics than they've ever learned. And they look at me kind of in a weird way. And I tell them that because all of the mathematics that I had to learn in undergrad, once again, when I started teaching, I realized it all boiled back to those basic math properties. But one of the things that I've learned along the way in reference to this question is the solution or the answer is always in the question. There's a quote on my wall in my classroom, and it says, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. And it's by Einstein, and that's one of my favorite questions. And students, they get irritated with me a lot of times because you give them an assignment and it's, I don't get it. I need help. And so I'll tell them, ask me a question. And they get mad. I've seen kids come to tears because I say, ask me a question. Mm-hmm. Well, when they finally start asking questions, or sometimes I have to ask them probing questions. Okay. And when they start realizing to ask those questions, then those questions pretty much guide them towards which steps to take in the process of arriving at a solution. One of the biggest things at the end of the day that kids need in this technologically driven world, they need to be problem solvers and critical thinkers. I was reading a few weeks ago that back in 1979, a calculator, not the tool, but a human calculator, was one of the top 3 jobs in the marketplace. Well, by 1999, that was number 9 on the top 10 list. And so kids don't have to know how to find a solution. When you get out there in the real world, a calculator can do the math for you. But what kids need to do is they need to know how to be critical thinkers and problem solvers, because, my thing is every day you're faced with problems and you got to figure out a solution to that problem. Right. So I think the main thing is we got to teach these kids to have a growth mindset, and we got to teach them to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. And that's not something that I've always agreed with. When Common Core came into play, one of the biggest things I would always say to people is, so you're more concerned about not getting the answer right, like we shouldn't help them arrive at the right answer? And I would get irritated about it, because I always say, if I'm having a medical procedure done, I don't want them to estimate what 3 cc's of whatever medicine needs to be injected into me. But I started realizing as I gained a growth mindset. So that's one of the key things, getting a growth mindset. And what I started realizing is the process. When we start learning the process and getting these kids to be critical thinkers, and then they grow. So if a kid did not necessarily get the right answer to a problem, but he or she can show me the steps that they took to arrive at the solution that they got, now we're talking big things. So the most important thing to me is learning how to ask the right questions.
Okay, that's good. All right, so is there anything that you know now that you wish you would have known sooner? And I guess maybe that could apply to the process thing, but I give you the floor. You let me know how you want to answer it.
The process. And I say that because this has been a long road. Early in my career, only my closest friends knew I was an educator, and people that knew me in college, they knew me as this outgoing person who did all kinds of things. And so I didn't tell many people that I was an educator, but in going through life and going through certain life experiences, as I decided to grow and just improve as a person, I began to embrace that this was my gift, that this was what I was put here to do, and this is my gift to the world. So I think the process, there were many times that it was hard, many times that I was like, you know what, I quit, I'm done with this. And back in 2012, so I had this goal to make a certain amount of money by the time I was 30 years old. Well, 3 months after my 30th birthday, I got the job, and I was a upper level math content specialist. Okay. Well, what that means is I basically was in charge of helping people build standardized tests. And I was so happy when I started this job. It was in another city. It was a great job. It looked great on my resume. But after about 3 months in, I realized I'm stuck in a cubicle, and I go talk to my colleagues who are so intelligent, but you ask them the simplest of questions, and it's like they're talking to the stars. So I realized that that's not what I wanted. So I went back to the classroom, and so, and I gave up a lot of money to go back to the classroom. So like I say, the process, because I realized that I was being more effective in the classroom, I got more fulfillment in the classroom. And at the end of the day, it's a mindset thing. Despite all the challenges that we face in life, despite all the challenges that we face in the classroom with kids and what they're dealing with, we have to realize that those kids are human beings as well. And so when you get fulfillment in going to help those kids, then now you're changing the world one child at a time. You're not going to reach all of them. So, you know, I go back to the process, because many days you're going to have rough days in the classroom as a teacher, but that's life. Mm-hmm. You know, kids say, oh, this is hard. And I always tell them life is hard. So the process, because one of the things that I've learned in the process is that the process builds character. Mm-hmm. You know, I came to grips with, I'm a proud educator now. So when people ask me what I do, I'm an educator. I teach math. And I proudly say it because I realize that's my gift to the world. So the process. Kids, when you're out there doing work, it's hard, you know, but you show me a teacher that is not forgiving of a student, or that will not give a student some form of credit because they turned in something, versus just saying, hey, I didn't get it, and they don't turn in nothing. I'll show you a teacher that has a problem. Like, they have personal issues in their life, I believe. And so that process, you know, even if you don't know what you're doing, particularly with the math or with any other assignment or anything in life, do something.
Right.
And eventually the process will build character, and you'll be able to look back and see where you come from.
Now, Ramaris McNeil said that you are one of the best math teachers. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I appreciate that. What's going on, sir?
So
that's one of my former students at Hoke High School.
Oh, okay. Thank you for tuning in, Mr. McNeil. Now, as we get ready to wrap it up, my bonus question is, because I know that you've probably seen this at some point in your career, is what's been your experience with bullying, and how do you feel that we all can positively impact it?
Bullying today is not what bullying was when we were in school.
Agreed.
I think that bullying definitely is a problem. And there's so many different forms of bullying now that it's really getting out of hand. One of the biggest things that they have access to that we didn't have access to in our generation is social media and the internet. So I think a lot of bullying starts with social media nowadays. So one of the main things that we can do, particularly parents, monitor your children's social media. Mm-hmm. Kids are going to get a hold of things, whether we like them getting a hold of it or not. They're going to get a hold of certain things. And I always tell people, you can't control what a person does when they're not in your presence. But as a parent, check that social media. See what they're posting. See what the other kids that they're following are posting and things like that. But even as a classroom teacher, I think we have to continue to show love, continue to practice those random acts of kindness. One of the things that it shocks students is that I call them, I say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. And they're shocked. So I respect them as people. Mm-hmm. And I try to build those relationships and see them as individuals. I can't tell you how many instances of bullying that I come across on a daily basis. And so I think we have, if you're a teacher, you have to remember that common sense, it ain't so common nowadays. Mm-hmm. Because think about it. What's common in my household may not be common to your household that you grew up in. And so we have to build relationships, and we have to model certain behaviors to these kids. Kids can tell when teachers aren't on one accord. Children in the house can tell when their parents aren't on one accord, whether the parents are in the house or whether they're not in the house. And so we have to model certain behaviors to kids, and I think we have to call it out. We're not going to be able to catch every situation of bullying, but we have to be able to continually teach them certain things about the importance of relationships. And one of the things that I tell my students all the time is that you're going to one day work with someone that you do not like. They will tell you to your face that they don't like you, whether it's racially motivated, sexually motivated. It could be motivated by the material things that you have or the life that they think that you have. So we have to learn how to practice building healthy relationships and model that with the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I don't think there could have been a better way to wrap up the session. Thank you so much, Dana. I want to make sure that I reiterate this, that it's really important that we master the fundamentals, and that is in mathematics, and really it's really applicable in life as well. We just got to get those basics down, and then everything else after that just kind of builds on. And then we have to, that process is really important. We got to focus on that process and embracing that process, and really learning from that process, because I think it's much more important than whatever that end goal is. Because sometimes we can get there like you did. You met that income goal when you got that new job, but you weren't fulfilled. So sometimes you got to trust that process and trust that everything else is going to work its way out. But thank you guys so much for tuning in with us tonight. Dana, you have been awesome. I can see why people have you speaking motivationally more than they have you teaching math, because you can talk, and I appreciate that. You did a great job. I hope you found value in this video. If you did, people, please share it so that who needs the information, they can get it. And I'm going to be sure to bring you back on, because there's more information. We probably could have went on forever, but there's more information.
Oh, yes. I can go.
There's more information that we can talk about, especially as it relates to math, and just your experiences that you know, people need to hear, people need to see. So I'm definitely going to be bringing you back on. Dana's helping me with another project that I'm working on, which I'm not telling you guys about yet, but on the 15th of April, you will hear about it. But it's some big things. It's going to be good. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Dana, again, thank you. The YouTube video will be ready tomorrow, so I'll send you that link once we're done. I will send you guys thoughts on the video. You know, I like to do my wrap up at the end. I'll send that on this post as well as any other resources, the website for Dana, for booking him, as well as his YouTube channel. I will post those in the comments as well. So if you need a tutor, there's your math tutor right there.
Holla at your boy. The board is right here, and
so he's ready.
The board is for the videos. But one of the things that I want to leave the people is that a lot of people are skeptical about online tutoring, but I always offer at least one session for free so that people can see what online tutoring looks like and how it works.
There you go, people. So you got one session for free. You can get in there and sit in front of that man and watch that whiteboard and learn something. You can see how that experience is going to be. So, you know, don't stall. If you know you need it, then reach out to him. I'm going to put those links in the comments again. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, thank you, Dana. And I hope that you guys have a great night. Peace.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. Good night.